You have the officers and tools and backup personnel you need to accomplish your goals?
Well, I think we got to work with what we have. Just kind of like the coach of a football team, you don't get to go out and hire as many people as you want, or bring in a LeBron James and a Kobe Bryant as much as you would like to do that. You have the personnel that you're here to work with. The demand in the city is extremely high, clearly high. I've said from day one that, from my perspective, that this city needs more police officers, but the reality is in the financial times, that's not going to happen. So what I have to do is take what I have and make that as efficient as I possibly can. And with that, goes back to why I'm doing a strategic plan. We can't do 50 things. We can't do 20 things. But we can do the top 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 that this city says it wants to do. If the most important thing to the citizenry is when I pick up a phone, I want a police officer there, then that becomes our mission to be the best at doing that. If they say, I want you to deal with the violent crime that's in the city with gang violence, then it's incumbent upon us to become the best at doing that. So with what I have, I'm going to have to work as much magic as I possibly can to make that happen in light of the financial situation that we're in.
And what if they say we want it all?
We can't give them all. That's just not possible. I mean, the reality is what my job is as chief of police, and the reason that the mayor gave me a contract is to say this is what we can do and this is what we can't do. Now, my job is customer service, whether it's to my boss, the mayor, or the city council, or to the residents of this community, all residents of this community, no matter what ethnicity or background, and to do the best that we can. But we will say what we can do and what we can't do.
Mr. Mateer, I just would add this. If you recall, in January '08, at a State of the City address, I said, let's the entire community come together and let's get to the authorized end strength of 803. We did that in January of '08. And there were a number of naysayers. However, by the end of the year, November '08, we had gotten to 836 police officers. So within that year, we did achieve the goal that we set out in January of '08. By November of '08, we were there. Now, with attrition, et cetera, at this particular moment, as we speak, we're at 791. If you recall, in the context of attempting to balance a budget where we had roughly an $83 million budget deficit, we were looking at having to lay off significant numbers of police officers, which also had the potential of putting our Measure Y problem-solving officers, the 63 problem-solving officers, in jeopardy as well. Because the way Measure Y is written, you have to at least budget for 739. And we were helped by President Obama's stimulus effort, and I'm very proud to say that Oakland ended up with the largest grant in the COPS program from anywhere in the entire country, and we were the only city in America that were given a perfect score on the submittal that we made. So that has allowed us to be there. Now, if your question is, are we benefiting from this strength? I think the answer to that is yes. And if we have to go down below that, given our present budget constraints, it's clear to me that we would then have to, in my humble opinion, go to the residents of Oakland to say if we want to stay on this path and we agree that the strength of roughly 800, give or take, is appropriate, then, you know, do we pay for it or do we not? And that's just the reality that we're in. But right now we're at 791, and I echo the sentiments of the chief.
Many cities tend to look at the police department and say, solve this problem. And the police department does suppression, but it also needs to do prevention and intervention and reach out to kids. But there's a bigger piece to that, is the success that was had in the city that I came from was because the citizenry stood up. It wasn't anyone riding in on a white horse and as a shiny knight saying, we're going to change this. The citizenry said, enough is enough. We want to stand up and make a difference. The council said, enough is enough. We want to make a difference. The media said enough and actually did the columns and papers and background case studies on enough is enough, how other cities have been successful. If this city, if this town, if this region is not ready to make a difference and commit itself to reducing crime, it's not going to happen. And so the media and the stories that go out on things that have been successful and worked in other towns the council, the citizenry. There's graffiti in the city. I mean, it's very easy for us to organize, paint that out, show that this is our community, that this makes a difference.
To underscore a comment that the chief made, we refer to our strategy as PIES, P-I-E-S, prevention, intervention, enforcement, and sustainability. So it's along all of those lines that we have to operate. And in the context, again, of the president's stimulus effort, we did receive the largest grant from the COPS program. But the way we sold Oakland's approach to Washington, D.C. in the context of the recovery effort is that we would make an effort to connect the dots, that we would have outreach workers, that we would have training referrals, we would have job opportunities, we would have a number of things that go along with the police. So it's not just about the police, it's about, as the chief said, a comprehensive, multidimensional approach.
May I ask a question about the drug trade? Your counterpart, the new guy across the bay in San Francisco.
George Gascon?
Yes. He has said that the drug trade doesn't just stick within city borders, and so therefore it needs an intra-city approach. Do you agree with that, and would you be on board as part of?
Wholeheartedly. George and I are already talking. George and I are long-term friends. We knew each other in Southern California, worked together with each other in Southern California when he was deputy chief at LAPD and myself as the chief of police of Long Beach, which borders LA. Clearly, this is a regional problem. Part of what I have to get my arms wrapped around is the connectivity between cities. The drug trade comes in, and I shared it at a previous news interview that when I was chief of Long Beach, we did a case that led from the border of Mexico and came directly up the 5 freeway and stopped right here in this area, and then it dispersed in this area. So clearly there is connectivity. Clearly no police department has enough police officers. You ask any chief, he will always say, I could use more police officers. But you don't have that luxury, so you have to have force multipliers, and you have to start working on a regional approach. And George and I are making phone calls. I believe he's on his honeymoon right now to his very beautiful now wife. And once he gets back, he and I are connecting, and we will be working together along with other chiefs in the region.
We have 57 NCPC beats in the city, and many of them very active. And I was wondering, what are you hearing from your area commanders about how effective that are, what the police need from the citizens, or how they're communicating?
The young lady for the city that works out of the city administrator office who oversees the entire program gave me an overview last week. Claudia, yes, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. And we're going to work together. And she is thrilled, and I am thrilled, and that is going to be my power base. She's going to be a prominent part of our strategic plan, and even prior to that, part of our planning. And we're going to try to organize these multiple groups. What I want to get out of the city, though, is that we tend to, in most cities, we tend to look at our area. We live in this neighborhood, and we focus on this neighborhood. I want this city to look at other parts of, other than its own neighborhood, and that's what I want to try to organize. I want people to touch other kids who may not look like them, may not come from their area. And if I said it one other time is, if I could get professionals to give 1 hour a week to a child, to mentor a child, 1 hour a week out of their time, that will make a tremendous difference. And I'm going to try to take people out of their neighborhoods, out of their communities, and go to other parts of the city. So we see ourselves as a city, not 40 individual neighborhoods.